I'm Kevin with Camp365. I'm here today to talk to you about the heating system. So why did the team of Camp365 engineers go with the trim of aerial heat? Number one, it's extremely efficient. Number two, it's very, very quiet. And number three, it's built to last. Right here is the trim of aerial heat. Notice it's nice and compact, and that's why we chose it in here. It's out of the way of the main cabin here. It's placed back a little bit, and right here is your heat duct that goes into the main cabin. Right here is the return air. And right over in here on the bottom here, you got to make sure that your button right here is flush. That allows the propane to come into the system. So that's something you always want to check. Around the corner here is where it exhausts out when the unit is running. This is your external exhaust. Why this is important, this is, it gets all the fumes away and out of the Camp365 when it is running. Right here is your line in, your propane line in, and this is connected into your propane tank that's right here. One thing important about the exhaust is that when you want to have the door closed when running the system, so it's proper ventilation to the external outside your cabin. Also make sure when you're running it, you always want to check and make sure your propane is on so that the actual heater fires up. This right here, propane tank, is one of the composite ones. This allows us to use various different ranges of propane tanks, the ones that you find at a store that you can buy off the shelf, or right here you find the composite one that we like that's refillable. But this system here adapts to various different propane tanks and fits different sizes. One more thing, we gotta turn on the master power before we head in the cabin. The master power switch is right in here, and all you're gonna do is turn it to the right to turn it on. I'm now inside the Camp365 cabin. The control panel for the trim of aerial heat is right here. Before I go into it, I wanna talk to you about two things. One, it works as a heater, and two, it works as a nice fan system that recirculates air when it gets really hot during the middle of the day, and at night it cools down. And it also offers some nice ambient noise when you're sleeping. First, I want to talk to you about the Camp365 fan system. First step is to turn the unit on. I hit the button right there. First of all, I'm going to go over to the fan function. So you use a little fob here and you go over to where it starts blinking right there. You then hit the button. And then what you do is you go over to vent. And then you hit the button once. And it says off, but then it allows you to go up in your volume. You go up to 10. It takes a little bit for the unit to start working. It'll come on in just a minute. You kind of wait for it here. Now you know about the fan. Now I'm going to talk to you about how to turn on the heater. All right, running the heater is basically just how you did the fan. You hit the button right there. You see this little RV beeping right there. You hit the button again. It says off. You're then going to scroll to your right and go up in temperature. You want to go, so for instance, if the temperature is, say, outside is in the 60s, and you want to get it to 76 to get the heat in, you got to go higher temperature than the actual inside of the cabin or outside. So right now I have it at 77. I hit the button again. The furnace is going to start acknowledging, it's in process mode of acknowledging that there's propane there, and it's going to fire on in just a minute here. You see it click? It'll initially start blowing just air out of the system. That's a safety feature. And then in just a minute, it's going to start blowing, actually acknowledge that there's propane in the system, and then start pushing out hot air. Okay, now that the unit is running, you need two things to get you along on your trip. You need electricity and you need propane. Electricity is monitored right here. It shows the amount of volts in your battery. Try to keep that at least above 11 when you're running your unit. Propane, you can easily check that. That's out in the front of your camper. You can feel the propane tank, how much propane you have in there. But make sure that you could also be plugged into shore power, or you can be plugged into a generator for longer stays. Or you can add on another battery. You could go one battery or you could go two batteries. And there you go, either 6 volt or you go lithium ion. A lot of people just start out with a 12 volt, but then they'll move up into another battery. One last thing. You want to make sure your camper is properly tensioned. Check out your very tensioning rods on here, and the 2 outside spreader poles. Those are properly positioned out. The more the camper is tightened out and pushed out this side, our patented air insulation system allows it to have an air gap. Air is your best insulator. Windows, attic, thinsulator, all based on non-moving air. So make sure your camper is properly tightened when you're running your heater. You look over here, here is your outer layer of the camper outside the Aqualon material. And then you have your inner layer in here. This air gap is what gives all the insulation for the Camp365. So what you do is you zip up your inner and outer layer, make sure it's properly tensioned up. Okay, we've covered the VarioHeat heater. We've covered the operation of the heater. We've also covered how the Camp365 is insulated and why you can use the camper year-round. Now go out and enjoy the outdoors.